All right. Welcome again to the All In podcast, where we talk about what it means to be all in all areas of your life. We're at the All In headquarters right here in Nashville, Franklin, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. We got Dan Rogers, a very special guest today. Dan is a business finance educator extraordinaire, solves a lot of problems for businesses that we're going to talk about today. Dan works for First Bank of the Lake. All right. Actually, here in town, we're going to learn a little bit about his business and what he does and how he can help you guys. So if you're a business owner out there, own your own business, and you're looking for funding or problem solving, Dan is a huge connector. And so, Dan, thanks for coming.
Hey, I appreciate the chance to be here. And the extraordinaire, that's your word, not mine. We'll just stay with the business finance educator, but I'm happy to be here.
Well, so Dan, small world. We just found out, right, that my wife, who is from Alameda, California, 2,000 miles away, but went to Vanderbilt. But you actually just figured out a few minutes ago that you went to you dated one of her high school.
Yes. So mates. We played the game of 6 degrees of separation, and we won. So your wife graduated with a girl I dated 20-something years ago. And Robin, if you're out there, hello. We both think nicely of you.
Hi, Robin.
Yeah, so Tennessee is one of those places where it's a small world. It is a small state in terms of population compared to California, and I think that one of the things I love doing is finding out, is there any kind of connections? And we found it in 30 seconds, so it was kind of fun.
Yeah, always fun. It is true. Nashville is kind of like that. It's transient. You've got a lot of people kind of coming and going, but let's jump right in. Sure. I mean, we met at Jim Morris's event, Impact Social.
Yeah.
And a lot of good people there, a lot of entrepreneurs. And I'm assuming that's what drew you there.
So I'm a big fan of Jim's. So shout out to Jim Morris and Impact Social. But he's a great guy. And yes, his events attract the kind of people that I want to be around. And I'm not saying from my purely they're going to be my client type of thing. I'm not prospecting for clients there. But there are just really, really good people there. Hence you.
And that's how we met.
Yeah.
And so like when you're there, like tell us kind of like a little bit about what you do. I mean, I know you solve a lot of problems. There's people out there that they've got issues with their business. And what are you seeing that's kind of right now, especially in this market, how maybe things have changed a little bit from last year to this year? And then what challenges they're seeing and what you're helping them with?
Yeah. So the biggest challenge that I'm seeing right now is it has nothing to do with interest rates or the market or inflation. The challenge that I feel like I solve, or at least I educate people on, is business owners typically believe in this myth. And this myth is that they should be able to open up a business and people will just come buy from them right away, which is not true. And the second myth is once they get this business rolling, that they have a bank, they have a business bank, and they should just be able to go to their own bank and say, I need a loan. And the bank says, oh, let's get right on it. And we're going to go ahead and give you that loan. And that's the second myth that business owners believe to be true. And I know it not to be true. And so there's a lot of business owners who are not ever going to get the capital they need from their own bank. And so what do? So what they do is they talk to somebody like me and they just learn their available options. All loans are capital, but not all capital is a loan. There's all kinds of financial instruments and vehicles out there that people who've been in business for 20, 25 years have no idea about. And it's going to be the thing that takes it from, $1 million for revenue to $3 million in revenue, or it's going to help them get off the ground once they get that first contract. But if they don't know, if they don't get educated, then they're stuck.
So what's an example maybe you can think of lately for our group that maybe how you've kind of come to the rescue for someone? What's an example you could share with us, with our audience?
So one of the most recent ones is a gentleman who came to me just through a referral. And he'd been to 13 different banks, including his friend's bank, his bank, a big bank, small bank. Like he went to all the banks, and he was looking for $100,000 loan. And can you give me a $100,000 loan? No, we don't do $100,000 loans. Too small. Then his credit score was too low. Then his cash flow wasn't right. Then the loan was for an IRS tax bill, and he just came to me. He's like, I have no options. I need to pay this IRS tax bill, but I don't have the money, and they won't work out a payment plan with me. And I just looked at everything that he has. I was like, well, you have this really large payment on your P&L, but it looks like it's for a building, but you're right. He's like, oh, that's a building I own in Southern California. I have a partner and my accountant just pays the bill. And I said, well, your payment looks really, really high for the debt on it. And he's like, well, it should be. Turns out his interest rate adjusted from like 4.5% up to 7.5% on a $4 million loan. Did some quick math. I said, I can't give you a $100,000 loan. But what I can do is I can refinance your building, give you a market rate. This is a while ago when the market rate was still good. I can give you a market rate. I can save you $10,000 a month, and I can give you $250,000 cash and have the payment stay the same. And this is a guy who had several businesses, was a good business operator, and never thought about using one business for the other purpose.
Yeah.
And he just sat back in his chair and he's like, I went to 13 banks. And nobody told me that. Nobody said that was an option. I was like, well, that's why you're not gonna have to look after me, because now this is the solution that's possible. We just have to figure out what's available. So that's a great story. And it comes down to business owners ask for the wrong thing. And I'm sorry, business owners, I love you. You're all technical experts out there, but you're asking for the wrong amount of capital, the wrong timing from the wrong capital source. And it's not your fault. But just understand that you might be looking for the wrong thing when it comes to your business. So that's a good story that I love to tell.
What's an example of like maybe the approach that a business owner is taking with you, but that you realize very quickly that okay, let's maybe talk about a different way that you're looking at this.
So the first thing that I do is I ignore what they ask for. Maybe not ignore is a little bit strong. Whatever they say, I just put it on the shelf and I say, I appreciate you, whatever you're saying. It's 100, it's $1 million, it's 10 million. Let's just table that right now. Let's just take a look at what you are bringing to the table. And my metaphor is a business owner brings in an amount of clay. And I'm the potter and the options are the potting wheel. And sometimes I can make like a little teacup because they don't bring that much. Low credit, low experience, low revenues. There's not a lot going for them. And then sometimes I can make a gigantic Ming vase, a 6-foot tall Ming vase, because they have great credit, all kinds of options, all kinds of collateral. So what I do is I'm just going to tell you what your options are from all the 15 different sources of capital. And once we figure out what the options are, maybe it's only one, maybe it's two, maybe it's six. We'll go through the pros and cons of each one. And we'll look at the timeline inside your business. Do you need $1 million now? Or do you need $1 million over the next 2 years? And if we can stagger things, go to different capital sources, that's a different approach. That's an approach I created as a loan broker a long time ago. I just realized that if I only tried getting them what they wanted, I was missing out.
Yeah.
You don't need a $100,000 loan. You need a $4 million loan. That's the perfect example of sometimes they just don't know what to ask for. And again, it's not their fault. It's just the way it is. So figure out what your available options are. Outside of banks, outside of traditional banks, just look at all the things. From there, go to your CPA, go to your rabbi, go to your priest, go to your friend. Then you can actually weigh in and say, you know what, this decision makes the most sense. And I just help people make the decision that makes the most sense.
Well, it sounds like even with the first guy, the story with the $100,000 loan, it sounds like he was kind of coming at it with one angle.
Yeah.
And then you're saying, hey, let's maybe leverage this over here. And that's honestly, that's a lot of what I've done in my career is just sort of try to figure out a way, however that way is to get to where they're wanting to go. And a lot of times there's, people think they're going to go to A to C with skipping B or something, it's like, you've got to, let's look at this a little different way. So what's a good ideal fit for you? What's a typical client?
All right. So this is the age-old question in sales, like what's your ideal likely prospect, your avatar, all these things. And it's
all over the board.
Well, it is all over the board, but it's they have to face one unique challenge. And it doesn't matter if they're 1 year in business, $500,000 a year earners, or they're 20 years in business and $100 million earners. In order for me to have a worthwhile, meaningful conversation with somebody, they have to have done one thing, which is go to their bank and say, I want a loan. And that bank has to say no. And we need to know what that reason is. Wrong geography. There's about 9 reasons why banks typically say no. Wrong geography, wrong industry, wrong loan size, wrong time in business, wrong credit score, all these things. And so my ideal client, my ideal likely prospect, the avatar, if you will, is twofold. One, it's the business owner who will grow their company or cut their expenses with some sort of new capital. And they've gone through the process of going to a local bank or their bank, and they're like, wow, I didn't know that they were going to say no that fast. That was crazy. So that's one type of ideal person where they're lost. They went to a couple banks and they don't know where to go. The second one is somebody who's stuck. Stuck is they know that they need to grow their business. They know that they need a bunch of capital, but they haven't done anything. They don't know where to go. They don't know if they should go to their bank, or they should go to Cabbage, or if they should go to the SBA. So people who are lost or stuck, those are great fits for me as it relates to being a business owner. But what I really want to talk to, or who I want to talk to, are the business consultant type people, whether they're a banker, whether they're a CPA, whether they're a realtor, who are having business related conversations, and you're seeing somebody who is a business owner and they say, hey, do you know anybody who can get me a loan? I went to my bank and they're saying no. And so I work with very, very well and tightly and closely with my circles of influence. People who are being trusted by business owners are also the people I want to talk to. So those are my two ideal people. Somebody's got great credit and they can just go in their own bank and get a loan and they want the lowest rate in the world. They don't have a challenge that I can solve. Like I got to have something that is actually facing them, that it's an obstacle.
So how do SBA loans, just dumb it down for us. How do SBA loans play into your world? So is it somebody that's coming in and maybe they've been denied an SBA loan?
This is a big question. And so this is a question I get probably one time a week, like, what is it? What is an SBA loan? So the SBA is a governing body. It's an agency within the federal government who is there dedicating themselves to helping small business owners grow and advance the economy. So there's 2,500, 2,600, there's a couple thousand permissible authorized SBA lenders. So each bank, a bank may be an SBA lender. There can be non-bank SBA lenders. There's actually a fintech SBA lender. So we all have our own different programs. The SBA is built to allow somebody to have a chance in business. And a typical bank structure is going to be large down payment, a tremendously high FICO score, good time in business, and historically profitable business on tax returns. Like you're not taking all the write-offs in the world. And so for all of the people that miss one of those four key components of a conventional bank loan, the SBA will do transactions with no equity or no cash injection at times. If you're doing an expansion, you can actually use the equity in the prior building or the prior business to actually expand your operation. You can get a loan down to 600 FICO with some SBA lenders for a commercial real estate. Like that's not a bankable deal. If you've been terrible in business, COVID really smacked you around, but you're going to buy a business, you're going to pivot, you brought on a partner, and you're going to project that you're going to go from $1 million to $4 million over the next 2 years. And this is the path to how you're going to do it. And you just need a couple new trucks or a new building or a bunch of staff to get you there. Like that's not a bank loan. And
why is that? Why is that not a bank loan?
So banks, the joke in the industry is banks don't make loans to people who need money. And then the counterpoint is, well, if I had the money, why would I need a loan? That's the joke. So the SBA realizes that there's a middle ground, there's a gap in between a traditional bank loan with all of these caveats and restrictions, where they say, you know what, our economy is built on 85% small business owners who have less than 20 employees. This is the statistic that these are the people that drive our economy, like the people who make our pizza, the people who cut our hair, the people who cut our lawn. Every city has hundreds of those people. And if they're not able to get the capital to buy the equipment, to make payroll, to buy the building, to buy their next business, then our economy falters and struggles. And where I see myself is I see an SBA as a tool that is going to be the thing that helps the economy. Like I feel like I can help the economy like one business at a time. And the SBA is it's a powerful engine to get people capital.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, but some of these people, they come to you and it's almost like, it makes me think of, kind of in the lending world, in terms of residential, you've got, A paper and Alt A.
Yeah.
And so is it kind of similar in the sense of what you're doing? You're kind of in one of those fields. Yeah. It's outside of the normal guides.
Yes.
That people, and so you've got to figure out something. It's not like it's subprime. Like we're dealing with stuff where people are rot gut, but or sometimes it is. Sometimes you've got it is because So you've got situations that really sometimes maybe they can't get financing anywhere else except maybe on the street, hard money or something like that.
Exactly.
Crazy.
So, and that's, I mentioned earlier, 14 or 15 different types of capital. There are inside traditional loans, there's traditional bank loans is what I identify as a category of capital. That's your Wells Fargo, that's your First Horizons, that's your Chase Bank, like your big bank, and they're going to give you the loan. Then you have your bank SBA lender. So Wells Fargo is an SBA lender, Chase is an SBA lender, and then there's other smaller banks that are SBA lenders. Then you have your non-bank SBA lenders, something like a Harvest Small Business Finance or Ready Cap or Fountainhead Capital. So you have these three little tranches of just SBA. But on the other side of that, there's insurance loans. There's private money, there's family offices. On the other side of it, there's private money real estate. And then there's factoring, and then there's PO finance, and then there's socially funded and grants and crowdsourcing. There's all kinds of different ways to get capital. And inside the space of a business owner, the SBA is merely 3 of those 15 different options. And so my job, I feel like my job, is to say, hey, you could go get an SBA loan for $100,000 to go buy this truck. Or you have 4 trucks that you can leverage, or you have 4 rental properties that are all worth $500,000 each and you have no loan on them. How about go get a private money loan? It's a 30-year amortization. It's actually a better payment than a $100,000 5-year term from an SBA. So those are the kind of times where I'm looking at the available options, and where I know that I'm doing a good job is when the business owner says, wow, I've never heard that before. Whoa, you know what? Nobody's ever asked me that before. You know what? That's a great idea. So that's when I know that I'm onto something. But the SBA is just one tool, one of the tools inside the quiver of options, and it does have limitations. It has some very, very big limitations.
Yeah, talk about those. What's a limitation or two that people just don't know about with SBA loans, and perhaps you guys feel a need for sometimes?
So the SBA is limited to a certain type of business. So there's all kinds of businesses that are going to be outside of what the government wants to see happen. Casinos, people who are making pawn loans, gentlemen's clubs, people who are making investments in Bitcoin, like they're not going to be eligible for a small business loan. Somebody who doesn't have who's not a citizen is not going to be eligible for a SBA loan unless they have a visa that allows them to be here for longer than the loan term. So there's some restrictions. If you make too much money, you can't get an SBA loan. If your credit score is too low, you can't get an SBA loan. So there's all these little caveats as to like how you can actually qualify. That's where an SBA operator like myself, that's where we get in the weeds. Is this thing eligible on its face? And how do we actually paint the story or design the story so that the risk is low? I mean, traditional banks, they want low or no risk. Where the SBA, that guarantee that the government is willing to give to a bank, that's really what mitigates the risk and takes that, oh, dang, if this loan goes sideways and we lose $1 million, well, the government's going to pick up the tab. That's really what the SBA is there for.
Right. I mean, it's definitely got its place. I think talk about like what's your scope like in terms of your geographical region that you serve? Is it only going to be local people here? Or do you serve other states and other communities?
All right. So this is the question that I ask bankers all the time. And this is what people, if you're a business owner, take notes right here. So you want to ask 4 questions. Where can you make a loan? Some banks are limited by city, county, state, region of the country. Some lenders can do any single state, but they can have to be in a major metropolitan area, like the 250 major, the MSA. Then there's industry. Do you do gas stations, restaurants, hotels? You have to make sure the industry. Then you have to make sure that the loan size is the right size. Is it too small, too big? And then what is the problem? Why you can't get a loan at your own bank? So if you're a business owner, those are your 4 questions. For my company, First Bank of the Lake, we are what's called a lending bank. We have 1 branch. We have salespeople like myself all throughout the country. We have made loans in, I think, 42 of 50 states in the last 3 years. So we're not going to be limited by geography, generally speaking.
But I think that's pretty unique, though. I mean,
it is very unique.
You're a single branch. Yeah. Correct. And folks, if you heard that, 42 states that they're lending in. So when I just think of that, just harkens back to the old days of common sense lending.
Yeah. And so you go into your local bank, hey, I'd like to buy a business over in Arkansas. Oh, we don't lend in Arkansas.
Right.
Done. So the key is understand where the bank lends, because they're going to be limited. Sometimes it's the counties that they have branches in and one county tertiary to that or adjacent to that. Our company, First Bank of the Lake, like people think of like Lancelot and Guinevere, the lake and all those things. We're gigantic and nobody's heard of us. We'll do over $350 million of SBA lending, and we also do USDA lending. We also make a couple other types of loans. We're top 15 in the United States in SBA lending. We'll be $500 million lender next year, but people don't need to find us unless they can't get a loan with their own bank. I'm going to hammer that piece to into the ground, but we're there to solve the problem for a banker who loves their client, for a business owner who loves their business. We fit an absolute niche.
And you guys get into tax strategies? I mean, these people maybe own their building. Do you uncover things like that, like cost segregation? We did a show on that a couple of weeks ago, and that becomes a big player in the wheel of success for business owners.
I understand what cost segregation is. I understand it's a huge tax gain for the right business owners. I don't ever mention it because I don't know enough about it, and it's not something that directly relates to the loan process that I'm.
Right.
It relates to cash flow down the road. And so it's just out of my purview. But I know it's an absolute moneymaker for businesses if they do it right.
Well, the tax bill guy is what made me think of it. So it's that's just one of the avenues we try to help people here at All In, and we really talk about what it means to have all your taxes in order, the strategies where business owners, and when I say business owners, I even mean, even people that are operating Airbnbs.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
So, they've got $1 million home or whatever. This has been great. So what are some of the challenges now that maybe as we enter into 2023, and obviously 2022 has been different, right? So, and you mentioned earlier, when rates, when the market rate was more favorable, but it's all relative, right?
It is. So the two biggest things that the business owner should be mindful of, and probably more so than mindful, be actively monitoring your current SBA loan. If you have a variable rate and you got an approval and funded prior to April of this year, you might have a 5% rate, upper fours, middle fives. And if you have a variable rate 7A loan, you could be in the 7.5%, 8.5% range right now, 9% range right now. And if you were barely making it and you used a projections-based loan in order to qualify when you got your loan last year, and you're a hotel or a restaurant and your cost of goods have gone up and your actual gross revenue has gone down, your loan is going to be a bucket tied to your ankle, filling up with sand, and you're in the middle of the ocean. It's going to be what takes you down if you can't manage that thing. So be really mindful of those things. Like people who are getting a loan right now, it's going to be an SBA loan might be in the 7.5% to 9% range. It's going to absolutely impact your cash flow. And so, but it's just like a tool. It's like the cost of tomatoes. If the cost of tomatoes goes up, you have to charge more for your pizza. If the cost of gas goes up, you have to charge more for your delivery services. If the cost of your capital goes up, you just got to charge a little bit more where you can inside your business. Like keep your prices competitive, but raise your prices. If you're a business owner and you've had the same pricing for the last year, you have to raise your prices. Everybody else is. And if you're not doing it, you're going to be late to the party. So, and this is directly tied into the second thing that business owners have to watch out for right now. It's fear.
Oh, yeah.
If you're watching the news and inflation and you're seeing what interest rates are doing, but if you need to buy a truck and that truck is going to make you more money, or that staff person, that extra headcount is going to make you more money, that building is going to take you away from that rented space and lock you into a building where you actually get other benefits, the money, it's going to be expensive. You just have a very, very short-term dating relationship with the interest rate, but you want to buy that piece of equipment. You want to buy that piece of property. You want to buy that technology that's going to get you forward, because you can always refinance down the road. Rates will come down, but if there's a piece of something, if money's going to help you make more money, Fear needs to go away. Just look at the numbers. What does the loan, what does the equipment do for your business? If it helps your business, squash the fear and move forward.
And so, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, right now, fear the media is just rampant. I mean, they love to hear crash, and promote things that are, it's a narrative, and it's up to us to control the narrative out there in the business world, absolutely. I think. And, how are people, well, I think what I was going to ask earlier is, you talked about, going down to $100,000, but I'm assuming you guys are putting together some pretty big deals.
We are following loan guidelines within the parameters of the SBA rules.
What's the maximum if somebody wants to come to you? Like, is there a loan size that for your bucket that is too big?
Our company, we operate with the 7A and the 504 loan types. We also have USDA. USDA loans could be $25, $35 million, but that's a different government entity. The SBA has its limitation. An SBA 7A can only go up to $5 million. And in fact, a person's exposure can only go up to $5 million. So you could have 2 or 3 loans, but only reach a $5 million plateau on the 7A side. On the 504 side, it's more like a conventional loan where the secondary piece, the second lien coming from the SBA, that can be $5 million, $500,000 depending. Our personal lending limit is a $9 million first lien. And so we could be looking at a $15, $18, $22 million total project for commercial real estate. They come in with some cash. The CDC provides a second lien, and then we can get into the deal for $9 million or less. But there's lending limits. Ask your bank what the lending limit is. If you have a $14 million transaction or a $25 million transaction, you think SBA is a route, just the lending limit should be one of the first questions you ask.
Yeah. So as we wrap up here, talk about kind of, what your passion is in terms of the way it integrates into what you do. Because I know you are passionate about what you do and helping people. Just from what I've just gotten to know you.
Wow, what a good question. So passion and I think and purpose are not the same, but they're absolutely holding hands. What I'm passionate about is being the reason a business owner makes it, stays in business, grows their business, expands their business, sells their business in 5 or 10 years for $20 million. Like I want them to look back, and maybe this is arrogance or hubris, so I don't know, but like I want to know that when they exit, like, you know what, remember that loan guy? I don't remember his name, but he was kind of tall, kind of funny. And you know what, he made this happen. And I hope he's like, I want to be the reason why our economy grows. And it's one business owner at a time. I'm just one SBA operator. There's thousands of people like me. We're all kind of at that exact same thing. The second thing I'm passionate about is it's the education piece around business operations. I come from a sales background. I'm a former sales coach. And then there's times where selling more stuff gets them out of their problem. They don't need a loan. They just pick up the phone and call people and sell stuff. And then there's times where people think they need a loan and it's perfect, or they need to sell more stuff. Like, no, you don't need to sell more stuff. You need to take this bad capital off of your balance sheet and replace it with good capital. So that process of just understanding, listening, asking really, really good questions. I'm passionate on how to learn to be a better question asker. How I can get past my own fears. Like I was scared to even come and do a podcast with you this morning. I was like, oh no, I got to get past it. I can get past it. So it's
pretty easy, huh?
This has been a great time. I just thoroughly thank you for the opportunity here, but it's passion and purpose. Yeah. I think it's country first, economy second. Like how can I be a piece of the thing that fixes the conversation where we're not talking about a bad economy anymore? Because we have businesses that are healthy. How do we talk about forward? How do we talk about a growing GDP and having, all of the things that we want to have in the best country in the world? Well, maybe I can have a part in that. And I think that's a cool thing for me. Gosh,
correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you may be talking a little bit about mindset, right? It has to be, you have to have the right mindset.
So I have a lot of background in mindsets, adjustments, some change work. And there are people who talk to me, whether it's about a loan or not about a loan, if we just talk about business and sales, and you can see it in their eyes, they just start looking in a different direction. They say, yeah, I can, or you know what, I will. So mindset is 100% a thing. Like, what is your take on mindset? Where do you want to go with that?
Yeah, I mean, well, a negative mindset and a limited mindset and scarcity.
Yeah.
It's I think right now more than ever you have to have an abundance mindset. I mean, for me, I like to surround myself with top-notch people. I'm a connector. I knew immediately that what you had was unique, and I wanted to have you on and talk about how you can be valuable to those out there. And so it's a lot of times people just need new information. It's just
100%.
they have bad information.
Yeah.
If they just had the right information, their outlook on things would be better. And the thing is, you have to believe it.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's also important to have someone in your life, whether that's, if a business owner, they need a banker or they need someone in their life that's a sounding board, that's a problem solver, that's also a cheerleader, but they're also going to tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear sometimes. And I think, having mentors is a big thing. Everyone that knows me knows that. And, but yeah, I mean, I think, for us here, we want to always provide value to you guys out there in the audience. And so I'm going to tell you how to reach out to Dan. Dan, like we've illustrated here, demonstrated, he's super bright, super helpful, and a problem solver. So, you can reach out to Dan at consultdanrogers@gmail.com, or you can look him up on LinkedIn at Dan Rogers CRE, or on Google, you can just Google him at Dan Rogers CRE. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, go all in. See ya.
Thanks.